So in this video, we are going to look at some string operations and functions. The first operation that string operation that we're looking at is known as concatenation. Let's say you have a string that has the value s1, hello, and then you have s2 equals world. You can put them together by using the concatenation operator. You have seen that before, so that's the plus sign, remember? But if I'm using it with strings, it becomes the concatenation operator. So every operator changes depending on the types, depending on the Python types that we are using it with. So for example, if I say s1 plus s2, it's going to print hello world. Now there's no space in between hello and world. I can just add like a space in s2 and then print it again. Or if I don't want to do that, I can create more concatenations here with more strings. So let's say I have a string with a space and then plus with s2, and I'm going to get this concatenated. The second operation that we're looking at is known as the replication operator. So for example, I have this string HA, and if I'm going to print S3 multiplied by, let's say 10, right? And so you've seen this multiplication operator before with numbers, but now remember what I said, when we are using operators of different types, their meaning changes. So let's see what happens, and let me just remove this and run this. So this string will be repeated, and that's what the replication operator is all about. This multiplication sign with numbers is now a replication operator, and you can like repeat it as many times as you would like. Now, one thing remember is that when we're using a replication operator with a string, we have to use an integer. And if you're using a float, then this will error out. Reason being that there is no way you can figure out, depending on like whatever the string you're using, what does like the repetition of 10.2 means. There is no meaning to that, and that's why we get this error. And so this has to be a whole number, this has to be an integer, and then only replication will happen, because essentially it means repeat the string as many number of times as I want. All right. Now the second thing that we're looking at is some string functions. Python provides many operations for us to use in the form of functions. We have seen print, because just look at it. Print is creating some output for us, and it's a function, it's a built-in function. So similar to that, there is another function, and let me just update this. I'm saying s3 is hello, and print len. The small case, since it's like a keyword, len s3. This is going to return the number of characters in my string. So let's see what this returns. The number of characters in my string are HELLO, so that's 5, and so that's why it returns a 5. Let's say there are spaces on either side, so one space will count for one character, and this is what we're going to get. len is very useful because it calculates the length of the string, and sometimes that's like very useful for us in a lot of problems. All right. One thing to know about the print statement, because we're talking about functions, is that whenever we use a print statement and we say that, let's say print hello, and then we said we separate things by comma, and then we say world, right? And if I just go ahead and print this, let's see what we get. Now notice that I did not introduce any space like the one that I did with concatenation, but regardless, it introduces that space whenever I have a comma here, right? So the reason being that there is another parameter in the print statement that's known as END, and the default value for END is always like a single space. So the good thing is that I can change, sorry, not END, but SEP. I'll come to END as well. So the thing is that this SEP has a default value which is like equal to one space, right? And so it always introduces a space in between all the values that are separated by commas. For example, hello world, Python, no matter how many values you have in the print statement, it is going to introduce that like single space in between all these. That's because of the parameter SEP. So the good thing is that we can update that SEP, meaning instead of like a single space, if I just want to say I don't want any space, and so I've introduced an empty string with nothing in there, and I just just run this, you'll see that the default space is gone because I have explicitly changed the separation. Similar to that, I can add any separation I like. Maybe I like hyphen, so maybe I can separate it by that, or maybe I like a star, so I can separate it by that. So that's a flexibility that the print statement provides us. Similar to that, if you have like multiple print statements, so let me show you another one. Print, this is nice, right? And another one, print goodbye. So we have like multiple print statements. I don't know if you've noticed or not, if we like run them, every print statement, the output of every print statement comes in a new line every time. And that's because there is something that's known as the end parameter within the print statement. So for example, end, END equals, it has the default value of \n. Remember, \n introduces a new line. It stands for new line. So there is this like default value of \n. However, just like with SEP, I can go ahead and change that. So for example, here, I would say don't end with a new line, but rather end with, I don't know, maybe a space. So what will that do? Well, this line will not end with a \n, and I'm going to get this goodbye, the third line here. Let's see if we can see that here. So notice that this goodbye is not on the next line, but rather here. Why? Because the default in Python was \n. For example, if I remove this END, I will still get goodbye in the next line. Let's quickly check that. However, I can update END and SEP and get different patterns. So if I just like remove this, the default is a single space between every value in the print statement. That's what I'm getting here, right? And then the default is that you will have every line, every print statement in a new line because END is equal to \n. So that's all for this video. Then see you in the next video.